opening up a couple of passages. We'll talk about it just for a moment, kind of set our hearts up for this, get our minds ready for next week as we prepare for Thanksgiving, which is like not this coming Thursday, but the following, right? It's coming up so soon. And then after that, we're looking at Jesus and the incarnation of Christ as we get ready to talk about Christmas. So I'm trying to point us that direction while kind of wrestling with some of the things we're talking about this morning. So a couple weeks ago, we preached a sermon called Do Whatever You Want. And the message was that it's not that our desires, the C.S. Lewis quote, it's not that our desires for sin and for evil, it's not that our desires are too strong, but that our desires are too weak. And that our biggest problem is that we shortchange the life that God offers us and settle for so much less. And so we wrestle with this idea that Paul wrestles with where he goes, man, the life I want to live, I sometimes don't live because I get caught up doing the things I don't want to do. And so we said, do whatever you want, so long as it's actually what you want. And then last week, we followed that up and we said, be who you mean to be. That there is a life for you to have. And God will do the saving work. He'll redeem you. He'll grow you. He'll make you into the person that He created you to be. But there are some rhythms and some habits and some choices that you can make in your life to make sure that you are being formed in Him and not all of the noise that's in this world. And so let me build off of that this morning. And so not only is there a person for you to be, and not only is there a way for you to live, but there is a life that you are to have. There is a life that you were made for. And the Bible calls it an abundant life. The Bible calls it a full life. And the Bible implores you to take hold of your life. But there's so many things that get in the way. And so as we get ready for this kind of season of giving and generosity, and we're going to talk to you about food drives. We're going to talk to you about giving gifts to those who are in need and how we can serve people and love people and use what God has blessed us with to be a blessing to others. We do begin to wrestle with some of those things in here, some of those heart postures that work against the life that God is inviting us to take hold of. So I want to show it to you in the text. It's a story Jesus uses a parable, and then we're going to talk about it a little bit. We're going to begin. Remind me what my first text is. We're going to begin in Luke chapter 12 is where we're going to begin. The Gospel of Luke chapter 12. Somebody asked Jesus this question. Teacher, tell my brother, I guess this isn't a question, to divide the inheritance with me. And Jesus jumps in. He uses this as an opportunity to go, man, doesn't that just take so much of our thoughts and so much of our life is, what am I going to get? And I work really hard and I make decent money. And so what do I have to show for it? And do I have the house? And do I have the stuff? And do I have the inheritance? Am I getting the life that I think I deserve, that I should have? And so this man is going, I'm owed my inheritance. God, you're all about redemption. You're all about equality. You're all about using what we have to serve people so that nobody is without and so that everybody can be richly blessed. And my brother wants all the inheritance for himself, so tell him to divide it with me. And this is what Jesus says. Who appointed me judge and arbiter between you? And then he said, watch out. Be on your guard against all kinds of greed. Here's my point to you this morning. As we kind of talk about this awkward, tough subject that makes all of us uncomfortable, the thing that's going to keep you from taking hold of your life, from having the life that God is inviting you into, is a heart posture that the Bible calls greed. And the hard thing about greed is you can't really quantify it, right? There's no amount, and the amount that works for you is different than the amount that works for me. And so there's no standard. You can't say, well, just give X amount, and that means that you're not greedy, because of course you can be greedy in your giving. You can be greedy in your stinginess. You can take all of this and point it towards yourself so easily. So this is one of those things that you can't just check it off your list. You can't be like, see, look, I'm not greedy. In fact, I bet if we went around the room and we asked for your definition of what greedy looks like, we would get 100 different definitions in this very room. And so I want to just start by, what is Jesus talking about? How do we define this? How do we work against it? And how do we set ourselves up to inherit the life that Jesus offers us? And what is a heart posture of selfishness, of self-focus, self-aggrandizing, and that kind of self-centered greed? What does that do to the life that God invites us to? Be on guard against all kinds of greed. Life does not consist in an abundance of possessions. Is life not more than your stuff, is what Jesus is asking you. And so this is how Jesus explains it. If you're reading this so far, the one question I have is, okay, well, what do you mean by this, Jesus? What do you mean, guard myself against greed? What even is greediness? What does it mean to have a heart posture that looks good on the outside, but inwardly is actually greedy? And this is the parable Jesus uses to teach this. Ooh, I said I was going to be 20 minutes. I got to be so quick. And he told them this parable: the ground of a certain rich man yielded an abundant harvest. Notice this rich man, it's his ground, it's his land. He's put in the work, he's grown the crops, and now he is reaping his just reward. The Bible teaches us that you reap what you sow. This man hasn't done anything wrong. He hasn't done anything evil. It's his to use as he pleases. He's reaping the harvest of his just and due labor. And so because of his work, he is a rich man yielding and reaping an abundant harvest. And this man thinks to himself, what shall I do? And one way to read this text, one way to understand what Jesus is after here, is notice how self-focused this man is. Notice how often he uses words like I in this text. What shall I do? I have no place to store my crops. And then he said, this is what I'll do. I will tear down my barns and build bigger ones, and there I will store my surplus grain. And I'll say to myself, you have plenty of grain laid up for many years. Take life easy, eat, drink, and be merry. And there's some of us who are like, amen, I would like that kind of life. Give me a little bit of margin, a little bit of room to eat, drink, and be merry. And what Jesus says is, life not worth more than your things? Is a full life, is an abundant life not more than how many things you can store up for yourselves? I'll give you a cheesy definition of the spiritual concept of greed. What is the sin of greed? And it's a cheesy definition. I got this out of the book. The book's called How to Be Rich. It's an Andy Stanley book, and he has a certain amount of cheesiness that he can say something, and it's so dumb, but it sticks right in your brain. And so this isn't the most accurate definition. It's just one that I think you will remember. He uses the phrase, the assumption consumption. No, I said that backwards. The consumption assumption is how he would say it. The consumption assumption. Here's the definition of greed that I think is in this text, and it will stick in your brain. It's this. It is the assumption that everything that you have is for you to consume. That's the mistake we make. That's the heart posture we have. Well, God, I worked for this. I earned it. It's mine to do with as I please. And when I have enough, when I have an abundance, when I have leftover, then it must be my blessing for me to spend on myself. And so this is what greediness looks like. This is when God blesses you and you use it for yourself. It's just the assumption that whatever you have left over is for you to spend on your own wishes, for your own purposes, for you to consume. And so it looks a couple of ways. You have the people that kind of hustle culture, and they can't spend enough. They can't make enough to overcome their spending, and they make good money, and they live paycheck to paycheck, and they don't have anything to show for it, and they want to be generous to their church, and they want to serve their city, and they want to love people with the blessings that God has given them, but they can't because they're stretched so thin. And you'll say things like, well, I don't have anything extra. I'm not the one with an abundant harvest. And I would say to you, if you've ever understood the term upgrade, you have an abundant life. If you've ever upgraded a car, if you've ever traded in a car for a better one, and like you drove there and it was a working car and then you left with an even nicer car, you live an abundant life. If you've ever gone to the cell phone store, gotten a new cell phone and traded in the working cell phone in your pocket, if you didn't like, oh, I broke my phone, I need to replace it with an equal or less valuable phone. No, if you said, no, my screen's cracked, I want the newest, nicest phone that I can get, you have an abundant life. You have excess. You have the kind of life that goes, I don't replace what's broken, I upgrade what's old. I add to, I store up for myself even more. I want a lifestyle of abundance so that I can have all the things. And that might be millions in the bank, that might be paycheck to paycheck. It has nothing to do with how much you make. It has everything to do with what you believe you're supposed to do with the blessings that God gives you. The greed in this text is not that this man has done anything improper. He has an abundant harvest. It's his harvest. He gets to use it how he wants. The greed is just the mistake. It's the assumption. It's the mistaken belief that whatever you have extra is for you to consume for more. And so there's some of us, I shouldn't say us because this ain't me, but it's some of y'all. There's some of us that you know you have extra, and you're like, all right, well, what do I do with what do I do with my extra? What do I do with my extra? I know, I'll build bigger barns so I can have even more. This is your investment accounts. This is you trying to save and go, however much I have is not enough. I'm going to use what I have to grow my power, grow my influence, grow my bank account, use my talents and resources, use the blessings that God has given me to increase my harvest so that I can have even more stuff for myself. And so the parable that Jesus gives, he goes, be careful of all kinds of greed that work themselves into your heart and ruin the life that God invites you to. And here's what it looks like. It looks like the man who worked hard, planted well, stewarded his business, took care of his land, handled his business, and then all he could think to do with it was build even bigger barns so that he could have even more stuff stored away. 1 Timothy chapter 6. Is that right? That might not be right. Paul at one point told Timothy, he said, you did not come into this world with anything, and you will leave this world with nothing. You carry with this world nothing. That's his point. He goes, man, you can store it up. You can store up for yourselves treasures. You can build bigger barns. You can have all of your stuff in your bank or have all of your stuff in your storage. And you can sit there and look at all and go, look at all the stuff that I've had. But then one day you're going to die and you won't take any of it with you. This is why Jesus says, so do not store up for yourselves treasures here on earth where moths will eat away and rust will destroy, but rather store up for yourself treasures in heaven. And so this is Jesus' point as we keep going on in our text. I'm going to try to stick to the text and stop citing other verses so that we can actually get through this on time. God said to this man who goes, look at my new big barns, look at how much cool stuff I have, look at how much I've acquired for myself as the blessing of all of my own hard work. And then God looks at him and goes, you fool, this very night your life will be demanded from you. Then who will get what you have prepared for yourself? This is how it will be with whoever stores up things for themselves, but is not rich towards God. I'll say it this way. This is the cheesy way to say it, but I'll say it this way. Maybe this will stick in your head. God wants you to be rich. He just wants you to be rich towards the right things. Be rich towards God. Be rich towards God. Work hard, store up things, make a life that produces, have an abundant life, have extra, have margin built into your life so that you can enjoy the things that God has given you. But don't make the mistake to think that everything that God has given you is yours to consume. Use it, put it to use, and be rich towards God. I'll give you an illustration. We'll give one more verse, and I'm going to wrap it up so that we can turn it over to our guests after we take communion. Here's the illustration. This is 1800 something. The Civil War is happening in America. President Lincoln hands the largest army that America has ever amassed to his general-in-chief, to his head guy, to General McClellan. And General McClellan is this venerated, distinguished, dignified mastermind of a general. They would call him a young Napoleon. He's this young, like young 30s, which is, young for a chief general. And man, he would show up with his uniform perfectly put together, and that was a testament to how he led his army, because his troops were perfectly in line, and they were well dressed, they were put together, they were disciplined. McClellan was a mastermind of organization and logistics. He was a mastermind of military strategy. On paper, you couldn't ask for a better general. And McClellan knew it too. We have letters of him writing to his family. And he's like, man, when this war's done, they might make me president. That's how much they love me. That's how much I've impressed them with how smart I am and how good I am at being the general. There's no resource that our government hasn't given me. I've got the biggest army, the most well-trained troops. And so he commanded the Army of the Potomac, over 100,000 soldiers that were marching against the South. And yet, they were losing to General Lee and his much smaller but much hardier and much more vicious army. They were losing because General McClellan had a bad habit. He would gather his troops. He would train his troops. He would say, there's a big fight coming. We've got to do more drills. We need to amass more troops. He would write letters to the government and write letters to Lincoln saying, I need you to send me more horses. At one point, Lincoln writes back, McClellan writes him, and he goes, well, we can't attack tomorrow. The horses are fatigued. And Lincoln writes back to him. And I'm going to get it wrong. It's a bad paraphrase. You can look it up. It's much cooler the way Lincoln said it. But he said something like, permit me to ask why your horses are fatigued, what battle you have fought, and what you may have done to somehow earn the fatigue of your horses. Because from what it looks like to me, you've got the biggest, greatest army that you've managed to do nothing with time and time again. And so he took kind of his right-hand man, General, I'm going to say Hutch or something like that, Lincoln, and he goes to the Army of the Potomac. He's looking out over all of them. And he says, what do you see here? The man looked. This is weeks before he was firing General McClellan. He looks at him and he goes, well, I see the Union Army. I see the Army at the Potomac. And Lincoln goes, no, you see nothing more than McClellan's bodyguard. That's all this is. We've given him the best army, the most troops. At every battle he's gone into, he's had superior numbers against his enemy, and yet he doesn't chase his enemy. He doesn't use his tactical advantage. The problem is McClellan is afraid of losing troops, and so he just won't send his guys into battle, and he keeps asking for more and more and more troops, and finally Lincoln is going, man, all of this isn't for the war. All of this is for you. You think all of this is your personal bodyguard to keep you safe, to enhance your reputation, and to advantage your station. See, McClellan's biggest fault is he was too scared to use what he had been given for the purpose it was given. He made the mistake of believing that everything he had been entrusted with was for him, was to serve him, was to advantage his position and his reputation and his station. And so Lincoln just took it from him. Lincoln said, I don't need you. We're going to do it without you. And we're going to find somebody that will actually take what I've given them and use it for the purpose with which it was given. Here's my point, guys. When Jesus tells the story, he says, guard yourself against greed. Because you're going to be tempted to take everything I've given you to have an abundant life, to have a rich life. And instead of being rich in God, you're going to use it to make yourself rich. And what's going to happen is if you do that, man, if you take all of your stuff and you use it to amass for yourself your own security and your own sense of fleeting happiness, and you deny yourself the inexpressible joy of the Lord and the peace that surpasses understanding, because your security comes not from the Spirit, but from whatever you manage to pay for your security systems in your army and your bodyguards, you will miss out on the life that I've given you. And I'll take it from you. This is the hard part. Can you back up a couple of verses? You have plenty of grain laid up for many years. And so you choose to take life easy and eat and drink and be merry, but you don't realize, man, I'll take it from you. In the next verse, you fool, this very night, your life is demanded of you. And you're going to stand before the Lord and you're going to go, but look at all the stuff I made. Look at how big my barns were. And God's going to look at you and go, man, you could have been rich in me. Don't you know, my Father's house has many rooms. Don't you know all that the Father has to give to his Son is yours? You had everything, man. It was all yours. You had everything that I had to offer you, and you squandered it by wanting more. Let me show you how he says it to Timothy, 1 Timothy chapter 6. Paul writes to Timothy, command those who are rich in this present world, and that is you. And I know, man, there's inflation and times are hard, and we act like we're not rich. I've been doing this thing at the house where Janae, when she cooks dinner, she hands me a plate, and it's so dumb. And I wish I wasn't saying this on the first service, because this is gonna be on the live stream. But I've been doing this thing. It's so dumb. But she hands me my plate, and I throw my head back, and I yell alone in my living room, I live like a king. And it's this thing I've been doing because, like, I know it's so silly. But here's the thing, like, I eat foods that, like, were not placed together on the same plate until, like, 100 years ago, right? Like, you realize that, right? Like, you eat foods from different parts of the world, seasoned from spices that didn't even exist in the time when those foods were around. Like, you were rich. You were rich beyond your understanding, man. You've got it all. You've got so much that you've been given. And I know we can stress ourselves out and we can live so thin and we can live paycheck to paycheck, so it feels like we don't really have that much. But look, you were born. Most of you were born with the kind of health where you can work. Most of you were born in the kind of socioeconomic system where even if you're poor, you're blessed and you're richer than most people who have ever lived on the face of this planet. The poorest people in here live better than most humans have ever lived. And so command those who are rich, and that's me and that's you, in this present world, not to be arrogant, nor to put their hope in wealth. One of our Proverbs, I believe it's in chapter 30, he says, the rich man believes that their wealth is like the fortified walls that protect them. And he says they believe this in their own imagination. And this is what we do, man. We go, see, if I earn enough money, then I'll be safe. Then I can build my bunker. I can have enough life insurance. I can do all of the steps to make sure that nothing bad can happen to me. And I will use what I have, not to bless others, not to serve others, not to live for more. I will use what I have to protect what I have. He says, don't put your hope in wealth, which is so uncertain. It's so uncertain. Welcome to the roller coaster, man. When things are good, when the economy's good, when enough people kind of give you that attaboy and nod because they see whatever it is you're trying to show off as a demonstration of your wealth, then things will be good. But it's so uncertain because you're now on the roller coaster, and sometimes it's good, but sometimes it's so bad. And sometimes you lose that job or your life gets rocked a little bit and you have to start over. And if your identity and if your life and if your future is dependent on how big of barns you can build, he's just going, man, you're gambling. It's so uncertain. But don't you know you've been given something sure? You have a sure bet you don't have to worry about. He says, don't put your hope in wealth, which is so uncertain, but put your hope in God. Teach them, command those to put their hope in God, who richly provides us with everything for our enjoyment. And this is what he says. Command them to do good, to be rich in good deeds, and to be generous and willing to share. I've got so much more to say. But before we hit this last verse, give me a couple minutes here. Back up one. Command them to do good. We're an intentionally under-programmed church. I hope you guys know that. Sometimes when my friends visit and stuff, they're like, oh, do you guys have like Sunday night service? Like, no, we don't do Sunday night service. Do y'all have like a Tuesday prayer service? Now, we got like a prayer team, but we don't have like a prayer service that we make you show up to. Well, do y'all have like Wednesday night Bible classes? Well, sort of. Like we have groups and they kind of meet at your convenience. Like we have Sunday and we have groups, and those are like the things that we do as a church. And everybody's like, well, aren't you supposed to be doing all of this stuff? And my answer is always, no. I like that I can look around this room. I like that when I look around the room, I can see guys that are like president of their bass club, and I can see people that coach their kids' volleyball team, and I can see people that are the teacher representative for the Fellowship of Christian Students in their school, and I can look around the room and I can see all of you building margin into your life so that you're not just here gathering with the saints, you're serving your city. You're being rich in good deeds. It's the serve days at the elementary school. It's the duty-free lunches. It's the Christmas gifts for those who don't need it. It's all of us going, what if it's true that if God has given me everything that I need? And this is 2 Corinthians chapter 8, I think that's right. What if it's true when Paul says that Jesus gave up riches to become poor so that we could be rich? What if it's true that God gave up everything so that you could have everything, that he stepped down from divinity and he came into this world as a newborn baby with nothing, and he gave his life on the cross. He emptied himself so that you can have a life of abundance. He gave up his life so that you could live a life of giving up yours and being generous and loving and serving others. If it's true, then you don't have to be rich with bigger barns and bigger portfolios and bigger investment accounts. You can be rich in good deeds. I mean, you can serve your city. You can create margin into your life so that you can have margin for mission, is the way people more clever than me have preached it before. That you can have room built into your life where you can give and you can serve and you can show up. And what God promises you again and again and again is that's the blessed life. That's the better life. And that's what it looks like to really be rich in him. Command them to do good, to be rich in good deeds, to be generous and willing to share. This is why we say we don't want you to give to a church, we want you to give through a church. I like the size of this building, and when we get too big for it, we're not going to build the bigger building. We're going to church plant, and we're going to keep church planting and church planting and church planting until there's outward focused, mission-minded, life-giving churches in every community around us that needs one. Because what happens when churches go, hey, what if we use our resources not to just build the next big thing for ourselves? What if we actually use it to serve the people around us? Do we not make ourselves richer, more fulfilled, more at peace, and experience more joy? And does the world around us not heal and become a better place? In this way, we lay up treasure for themselves as a firm foundation for the coming age, so that they may take hold of the life that is truly life. Don't shortchange yourself. Don't give up the life that you've been promised. Don't think to yourself that you have to hold on to what you have out of fear that your reward in heaven might not cover it all. Jesus says you can have life. You can have abundant life. You can have a full life, but it starts with realizing you've been given everything. You have your treasure. You have your reward. Your joy, your deepest sense of self is not found in your stuff. It's not your possessions. It's not your reputation. It's not scoring points by comparing your checking account with the people around you that are in the same age bracket as you. That's not where life is found. Life is found in Him. And if it's true that in Him there is fullness of joy, in Him there is the peace, not fleeting security, which is so uncertain, but the peace for your soul that surpasses understanding. If it's true that that's what Jesus gave you when He gave His life for your sin on the cross, then it's true you've been given everything. You're going home to your Father's house. Not yet, but one day you're going home to your Father's house where there will be plenty and abundance and you won't be without. So if you've been given everything, if Jesus is your treasure, if He is what all of this is really about, what are you holding on to so tightly? Be rich, not in yourself, not in your stuff. Be rich in God. That is the life that is truly life. Let's stand. We're going to pray together. We're going to worship. We're going to share the Lord's Supper. And then we're going to talk about how we can actually be about it. God, we come to you thankful for you, humbled by you. God, this is the time of year where we talk about generosity but live so selfishly. We talk about family and we say Jesus is the reason of the season, and then we spend the next couple of months consuming and being so materialistic and looking for those sales and looking for those deals. And so, God, help us guard our hearts against all forms of greed, all the things that creep in and convince us that what you've given us is for us to consume. Remind us again that what we have is to show others what our true treasure is, and that is you. Help us to use what we have to draw people near you. And when we forget that, reveal yourself to us in such a powerful way that we know that true life, abundant life, is found in you and not in ourselves. We give this to you. We trust this to you more than we trust our own fickle hearts. So by the power of your Spirit, move us towards you. In Jesus'